Discover the incredible journey, heartwarming rescue of a lion trapped in a giant turtle shell. In the small town of Maplewood, nestled between sprawling fields and whispering woods, 13-year-old Jake embodied the spirit of small-town America. Each day began before dawn, the first rays of sun barely casting their warm glow on the worn dirt paths of his family's struggling farm. With calloused hands and a heart full of dreams, Jake toiled away alongside his single mother, their bond strengthening with every seed sown and every animal cared for. The farm wasn't just a home, it was a legacy, stitched together with countless sacrifices and love from generations before them. One sunny afternoon, while the cicadas hummed their lazy song, Jake and his friends fished at the local lake. Laughter echoed as they swapped stories until the beauty of the day twisted into something unbelievable. There, in the shallow waters, they spotted Leo, a sizable lion trapped inside a giant turtle shell. Whispers swirled around the town like a summer storm, igniting excitement for some and terror for others. As rumors spread, the townsfolk became divided. Many saw Leo as a threat, fearing he could disrupt their tranquil lives. But for Jake, Leo was a beacon of courage, a chance to inspire courage in his friends and make a difference. Jake envisioned himself as a local hero, much like the legends he heard around the dinner table. He rallied his friends, forming a plan to rescue Leo, driven by hope and a hunger for adventure. Yet, their effort met fierce opposition. When meeting disapproving glances and harsh words from skeptical neighbors, Jake felt the weight of doubt seep into his heart, blurring his once bright aspirations. In every face he passed, he saw apprehension, a subtle reminder that bravery often battles fear. The day of their first attempt at rescue loomed, electric with anticipation. But everything unraveled in an instant. Panic flooded the group as their poorly devised plan backfired, leaving them teetering on the brink of chaos. The fear pulsated through Jake's veins, mirroring the trembling of the leaves around them. Ignited whispers about their incompetence rippled through town, gnawing at Jake's spirit like a relentless storm. The dignity of his family felt at stake, and uncertainty cast shadows on his dreams. Yet amidst the tumult, clarity broke through like sun rays piercing through dark clouds. In that moment of chaos, he understood that true courage is not simply facing threats, it's about standing for what is right and drawing people together. With newfound determination, Jake sought to rally the townsfolk. As they stood together for a second attempt to save Leo, their realm once filled with fear began to shift. Still, the air hung thick with doubt. Would they put aside their prejudices? Would Jake's aspiration for heroism be enough to unite them in this cause? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Jake stood poised to face Leo, all eyes were on him, a mix of emotions swirling through the crowd. Could they move past their fears and come together? Would Jake's dream of bravery be the spark to light their way? The townsfolk held their breaths, the story of Jake, a tale of compassion, courage, and unity, was just unfolding. What awaited them in this unexpected journey left everyone aching for the next chapter. The sun hung low in the sky, casting golden rays that shimmered on the lake's surface. Jake could feel the weight of the townsfolk's gazes, as if their hopes and fears intertwined, wrapping around him like a heavy blanket. The chatter faded, leaving an urgent silence that made his heart race. Here stood a chance not just for Leo but for everyone watching. Okay, everyone, Jake breathed out, more to himself than anyone else. We've got to focus. He looked to his friends, whose faces merged determination with uncertainty. Beside him, Sarah, his best friend with wide, trusting eyes, nodded, as if to say they were ready to face the storm together. Jake took a deep breath. We know the plan. We can't rush this. Leo needs us to be smart. He scanned the crowd. And you all need to believe. Look at him. He's trapped and scared. He needs help, not judgment. Whispers dotted the crowd, some still unsure, others beginning to look hopeful. He could spot Mr. Thompson, the local farmer, arms crossed and brows furrowed. Still, Jake pressed onward. We can show him kindness. Together. It'll take all of us. As if in response, Leo shifted slightly, letting out a low, sorrowful growl that seemed to seep into the very earth beneath their feet. For a moment, the world felt small, and all eyes were drawn to the magnificent creature enclosed by the shell. Fear was palpable, but so was the yearning to help. Let us approach slowly, Jake instructed, drawing the group nearer. They moved as one, feet crunching on the gravel path, his heart thumping louder than the sounds around him. With each cautious step, he felt the tremble of the earth beneath, matched only by the anticipation swelling in his chest. As they reached the edge of the water, Jake knelt, trying not to take his gaze off Leo. He could see pain etched in those golden eyes. You're not alone, he whispered, though he wasn't sure Leo could understand him. We're going to get you out. Jake's hands trembled slightly as he began to work on the turtle shell. The challenge was daunting, but he felt the warmth of encouragement behind him. People were stepping closer, joining him, like a tapestry of courage woven through the doubt. Sarah reached down beside him, her steady hands joining his, pushing the fear away with every small movement they made. We can do this, she exclaimed, her voice breaking through the tension like a lighthouse guiding a lost ship. Together, they pulled and pushed, sweat dripping down their brows, hearts racing with hope. Every ounce of strength was poured into the effort, and it felt like the entire town had come alive with purpose. They were no longer just individuals, they were a community, one with a shared goal, united in action. But as the shell began to shift, the fear crackled back to life, like a fire reignited. Leo let out a ferocious growl, filling the air with tension that stung their senses. It was the lioness instinct, but it struck Jake deep. Stay with me, he shouted, locking eyes with the crowd. We're close. Keep going. And just as they seemed to be gaining ground, a loud snap echoed across the lake, and terror returned. The shell cracked wide, leading to chaos as Leo's mighty form burst free. He stood towering before them, an embodiment of raw power and grace. Jake's heart pounded in his ears. Was this the moment they all feared, the lion unleashed? With awe, Jake felt the world stop. Would Leo see their courage, or was this the end of their daring rescue? As the crowd gasped, Jake's mind raced, serving as his guide in this unexpected climax. Would Leo recognize their intent? Would the bond forged through this struggle hold as they faced the unknown? The moment hung heavy in the air, ready to tip either way. What would happen next would change everything. Jake held his breath, each second stretching like a taut wire. Fear and excitement danced in his chest, and he felt the crowd behind him, holding their collective breath as well. Leo's golden eyes scanned the sea of faces, his powerful form standing tense and ready. What will he do? Jake whispered, half to himself and half to Sarah, who was still crouched beside him, her fingers still gripping the edge of the broken turtle shell. The lion stood there, muscles coiled, transporting them into a timeless moment where anything seemed possible. For one heart-stopping instant, the confrontation felt surreal, like staring into the soul of nature itself. And then, slowly, Leo took a step forward, his massive paws making soft imprints in the sand. The crowd gasped again, but Jake felt a surge of hope. Was it possible? Would Leo realize they were on his side? Stay calm, he urged quietly, renewing his grip on the fragments of the shell. He can sense our fear. The murmur of the townsfolk faded away, replaced by the rhythm of Jake's racing heart. Leo advanced another step, then paused, his body tense as if contemplating the world swirling around him. Jake met his gaze, trying to communicate all the unspoken words of reassurance and bravery. Come on, Leo, he encouraged gently. It's okay. We want to help. Sarah leaned closer, her voice soft like velvet. You're safe now. We're not here to hurt you. The lioness body language began to soften, his growl giving way to a low, almost sorrowful sound that tugged at Jake's heart. In that moment, Jake didn't see a beast, he saw a creature in pain, vulnerable and lost. And then, as if Leo realized that they weren't adversaries but allies, something remarkable happened. The tension in his muscles eased, and he leaned closer, sniffing at the air around them. Hope surged like wildfire through Jake, igniting the crowd into hushed gasps of realization. "Look!" someone in the back shouted. "He's trusting us." With collaborative spirit, the townsfolk began to step forward, advancing cautiously. One by one, they reached out hands, not to capture, but to connect. Jake felt the energy shift in the air, a collective sigh whispering across the crowd, a blend of amazement and empathy. Just as Leo bowed his majestic head closer, something caught Jake's eye, a sudden movement from the bushes nearby. Jake's heart dropped, freezing him in place as he squinted into the shadows. "Wait," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "What is that?" A rustling noise broke the tension, drawing attention from Leo back into the thicket. Suddenly, a figure burst forth. Young Tommy, the shy boy from school, had dashed out of hiding. He held a piece of fruit, his small hands trembling. "Leo!" the boy exclaimed, his voice brave yet quivering. "It's all right. I brought you something to eat." Silence fell again, this time thick with anticipation and anxiety for what might come next. Would Leo lash out at this new creature before him, or would kindness prevail in this wild moment of redemption? As their eyes met, Jake realized they were all at the edge of a new chapter, a bond forming in the wild, a community rallying for understanding. But what would Leo choose? Would he embrace this offering, or would fear eclipse their hard-won trust? In the backdrop of fading sunlight, the question hung in the air, leaving Jake with an urgent pulse of doubt and hope. What would this lion decide? Tommy's voice echoed in the charged air, a fragile thread of innocence reaching out to the wildness before them. Leo's gaze shifted, first to the boy, then to the piece of fruit clutched tightly in his shaking hand. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to hold its breath again, caught in a moment where everything could change. Jake glanced at Sarah, her eyes wide with both anxiety and compassion. It wasn't just a lion they were trying to reach, it was a symbol of hope for the entire community. Everyone here felt it, the power of connection, the urge to bridge the gaps between fear and friendship. "Come on, Leo," Jake urged again, willing every ounce of calm he could muster into his voice. "Just look at what he's offering you." Tommy took a cautious step forward, hesitant but driven by an innocent faith in the creature he had only ever heard of in hushed whispers. His small heart pounded in rhythm with the tension that enveloped them. He lifted the fruit higher, exposing the bright, colorful skin. It glistened in the dimming light, a beacon amidst the chaos. Slowly, Leo shifted, his nostrils flaring as he caught the scent of the ripe offering. The soft growl subsided, replaced by a deeper, almost questioning sound, as if he were trying to decipher this unexpected gesture of peace. Jake couldn't help but feel a sense of urgency. "You can do this, Leo. We believe in you," he said, almost to himself, though everyone listened in rapt attention. The other townsfolk were frozen in place, each one holding their breath, hearts pounding in unison. One cautious paw took a step closer, then another. There was a dance of trust being played out before them, an unspoken agreement weaving through the air like a fragile silk thread. As Leo approached, the sun began to dip behind the horizon, casting shadows that made everything feel even more poignant. The lion lowered his massive head, his golden eyes locked onto Tommy's hopeful gaze. Jake could see the boy's face flushed with a mix of fear and determination, but mostly hope. And that was everything. In that stillness, Leo sniffed the fruit, the tension in his taut muscles easing just a fraction more. And then, hesitantly, he extended his large, gentle muzzle, touching the piece of fruit with subtle curiosity. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, tears brimming in Sarah's eyes as she and Jake shared a knowing look. "Look, he's trusting him," someone whispered, barely able to believe it. With a swift movement, Leo grabbed the fruit, almost delicately, with his powerful jaws. The crowd erupted in soft gasps, relief flooding the air like a wave. Jake's heart swelled. It was a significant step towards connection, towards healing. But as they celebrated this victory, something darker stirred in the background. The bushes rustled again, and a second shape emerged, faster and more aggressive. A wild dog, eyes glinting with hunger, darted towards them, snapping at the edges of the shifting shadows. "Watch out!" Jake shouted, instinctively stepping in front of Tommy. As the townsfolk recoiled in horror, fear rippling through the group once more, Leo stood tall, his mouth still holding the fruit but his golden gaze turning fierce. It took a moment for Jake to understand Leo wasn't just a gentle giant, he was a protector too. The question now wasn't whether Leo would embrace the kindness offered to him, it was whether he would defend this newfound bond in the face of a new challenge. As the dog lunged forward, adrenaline surged through the crowd. Would Leo rise to the occasion and protect them, or would chaos reign once more? Could the spark of trust they had ignited endure the test that was upon them? The scene was set for a moment that would determine everything. Jake's heart dropped as the wild dog charged forward, its growls slicing through the air. Fear surged through him, settling deep in his stomach. Tommy stood rooted in place, eyes wide with confusion, too young to understand the danger that raced towards them. "Leo!" Jake shouted, his voice hoarse, breaking through the tension. The lioness' fierce gaze fixed on the oncoming threat, a primal instinct igniting deep within him. There was no hesitation now, Leo was no longer just a lion. He was their guardian, their embodiment of hope. In a blur of motion, Leo launched himself at the wild dog, his body moving with an elegance and strength that made him appear almost majestic. The crowd gasped, worry etched across their faces, but in that moment, there was no turning back. Leo was determined, and to those watching, it felt like an answer to their silent plea for protection. As Leo and the dog collided, the earth shook beneath them. Leo's powerful claws brought the wild intruder to a halt, giving him a fierce roar that echoed like thunder in the gathering dusk. Jake felt his heart race, caught between admiration for the lioness' bravery and the fear that pulsed through the crowd. "No!" Tommy cried out, now tugging on Jake's arm. "Leo! Be careful!" His small voice broke through the chaos, filled with innocent desperation. Jake knelt beside Tommy, gripping his shoulder. "He's okay. Leo knows what he's doing," he assured the boy, though uncertainty gnawed at his heart. He believed in Leo, but this was a fight unlike any they had faced. The dog, clearly taken aback by the lioness' ferocity, attempted to dart away, but Leo was relentless. With one powerful swipe of his paw, he knocked the wild dog off balance, sending it sprawling in the dirt. The townsfolk shifted uneasily, many covering their mouths in disbelief. Some wanted to turn away, but they couldn't, they were transfixed. Then Jake noticed something unexpected. The wild dog, realizing it was outmatched, hesitated, fighting instinct wrestling with survival. It turned its head, sensing that the lion wasn't just defending territory but protecting something more precious. The bond, that connection, slipped into the air among the onlookers, wrapping around them like the warm embrace of hope. Leo stepped closer, lowering his massive head. The primal dance was not over yet. Would the wild dog see reason? Or would this end in blood? "Come on, Leo," Jake whispered, holding his breath. From his vantage point, he could see the power radiating off the lion, a creature both fierce and gentle. Slowly, the wild dog backed away, its growls less certain, tail low. The threat began to dissipate, leaving behind a tension that was almost palpable. The onlookers let out a collective sigh, their breaths building like rising waves waiting to crash. But before they could celebrate this small victory, a howl echoed through the setting sun. It began softly but growing fainter, coming from deeper in the woods. More shapes were stirring, shadows lurking just outside their view. "Just what we need," Jake muttered under his breath, feeling dread clawing at his heart. Could Leo hold the line? Could their newfound bond withstand whatever was coming next? The urge to protect Tommy surged again, fierce and undeniable. As the first echoes of another challenge approached, Jake realized they were at a crossroads. Would the power of trust be strong enough to shield them from the wild, or was it merely a momentary flicker in the face of an impending storm? In that moment, the horizon quivered with uncertainty, and Jake prepared himself for whatever was about to unfold. Jake's heart raced as the howl intensified, reverberating through the trees. Shadows shifted, and in the dim light, he could see eyes glinting like tiny stars. Panic clawed at him. "What's coming?" he whispered to himself. The people around him had edged closer to one another, their collective anxiety crackling in the air like static. Tommy clung to Jake's side, his small frame trembling. "Leo will protect us, right?" he said, voice shaky but hopeful. Jake nodded, trying to mask his own fear. "Yeah, he will." But deep down, a knot of doubt tightened in his chest. Leo had proven himself, but could he handle whatever was lurking in the shadows? Just then, Leo let out a growl that sent shivers down Jake's spine. The lion stood tall, his golden mane catching the last rays of fading sunlight. It was a sight of strength, but even that couldn't quell the anxiety brewing within Jake. Then, amid the rustling leaves, a dark figure emerged, a second wild dog, larger and more imposing than the first. Its stance was aggressive, and it nudged the first dog forward. Instinctively, the crowd gasped, stepping back as the tension mounted once more. "Stay back, Tommy," Jake instructed, pulling the boy closer. Leo's presence was still potent, but Jake understood this was a different kind of fight. This was a challenge to their very safety. As the two dogs circled Leo, Jake noticed something poignant in their movements. They were communicating, a silent dialogue of snarls and growls. The wild dogs were no longer just savages, they seemed to be strategizing. "What are they planning?" Jake asked aloud, the words escaping him in a rush. "They're coming for Leo," Tommy said with wide eyes, a hint of fear in his voice. The lion lowered his body, eyes locked onto the wild dogs. He showed no sign of retreat, a testament to the bond they all shared, the bond born out of desperation and love. Suddenly, the lead dog lunged at Leo, and without missing a beat, Leo countered. The impact was fierce, they collided with a thud that echoed across the gathering. Jake's breath caught in his throat. He could hardly watch as Leo fought, twisting and turning, muscles rippling beneath tawny fur. The crowd erupted into anxious whispers, murmurs of worry diffusing through the air. "Help him!" someone cried. Jake felt the plea tug at him, igniting a flame of courage. But what could he do? His hands twisted into fists, but any movement felt impossible. "Come on, Leo!" he shouted, his voice hoarse, filled with a mix of desperation and hope. "You've got this." For a moment, Leo seemed to pause, glancing back at Jake and Tommy. In that fleeting second, a powerful connection rippled between them, a promise of protection. Then, he charged forward, a blur of strength and intent. But the second dog was quick, darting in to flank him. Just as they were about to collide again, Jake froze. An idea flickered. "Tommy," he urged, and the boy looked at him, bewildered. "We need to distract them. Can you help me?" Without hesitation, Tommy nodded. They grabbed handfuls of rocks and sticks, their hearts pounding wildly. Together, they threw the debris towards the advancing wild dogs. Cries of shock erupted from the crowd, but Jake pushed through the noise. "Hey! Over here!" he yelled, drawing the attention of the beasts. The dogs halted, uncertain, their heads snapping towards the sound. Leo seized the moment, lunging forward again. Jake looked at Tommy, eyes wide with determination. "This is our chance." But just as triumph felt near, from the forest depths, a third howl echoed. It wasn't just a call, it was a statement. With trembling hands, Jake realized they were now facing more than just a pair of wild dogs. A pack was forming, drawn to the chaos, ready to claim their territory. Jake's heart sank. How could they face an entire pack? Would their bond with Leo be enough to protect them in this moment of darkness? As shadows loomed in the distance, anticipation gripped Jake. Would courage prevail, or would they be overwhelmed in a web of chaos and fear? Jake's mind raced, teetering on the edge of panic and determination. The shadows they had already faced seemed trivial compared to the threat now looming before them. He knew Leo was a fighter, but could even a lion face off against a pack? "Leo!" he shouted, his voice ringing out over the chaos. The lioness' fierce gaze met his, a flicker of understanding passing between them. It felt as if every fiber of Jake's being was shouting for him to act. This wasn't just about survival, it was about standing up for what they had built together. "Tommy," he said, glancing at the boy. "We need to regroup everyone. Get the people back. If they surround us," his voice faltered, a lump forming in his throat. He couldn't finish that thought. Tommy nodded, fear still etched on his face, but steely resolve beginning to form. Together, they began shouting for everyone to move toward the safety of the trees. The crowd, still in shock, hesitated, but Jake's urgency broke through the fog of fear. "Come on. Move." The parents and older kids reluctantly pulled the younger ones with them, hearts pounding but listening to the command in Jake's voice. Jake and Tommy formed a line, trying to direct the crowd away from the clearing. The wild dogs, watching, flicked their ears back, uncertainty dancing in their eyes. When Leo roared, it felt like thunder rolling through the forest. It was a sound filled with both warning and strength, an anthem of courage in the face of danger. "Go, Leo. Keep them at bay," Jake urged. The lion, with keen instincts, focused on the pack, eyes narrowing as the dogs began to shift restlessly. Jake took a trembling breath, glancing over his shoulder at the retreating crowd. They were starting to scatter, moving back towards the trees. "We need to buy them time," he told Tommy. "Grab anything you can find to help us distract them." Tommy darted off, quickly gathering branches and stones, and Jake joined him. Their small efforts felt minuscule against the growing tension in the air. As they prepared to throw their makeshift missiles, the howl rang again, now joined by a chorus of growls that sent chills down Jake's spine. "On three!" Jake shouted, adrenaline coursing through his veins. 1, 2, 3. They launched their projectiles, the flurry of sticks and stones sending the wild dogs into a frenzy. A couple of the younger dogs yelped and backed off momentarily, giving Leo a chance to show his prowess. Jake felt his heart soar for a brief moment, but doubt quickly swept in. "Is it enough?" he thought. The pack began to rally, becoming a wall of snarling energy. The thrill of hope quickly faded as Jake watched Leo circle, ready, but outnumbered. Then he noticed something. One of the larger dogs lingered back, watching with intent. In a heartbeat, it surged forward, pouncing towards Leo, snapping jaws and feral determination. Jake's breath hitched. "No." Resolute, Jake and Tommy sprang into action again, retreating slightly to give Leo and the pack space. Leo was powerful, but he needed that time to maneuver. What was a fleeting moment could decide everything. Suddenly, the forest erupted with a cacophony of barks, growls, and the desperate calls of the crowd. It sounded chaotic, but within that chaos lay a thread of chance. A chance to save Leo. Jake's heart pounded. "Come on, Leo. Fight!" he yelled, desperation lining his voice. The sound of Leo's growl filled the air, resonating with Jake's own will to survive. But just as they thought they could hold their ground, a new sound joined the chaos. A deeper, more guttural snarl echoed out, reverberating through the trees. From the darkened woods, another figure emerged, massive and imposing. The sight sent a chill racing down Jake's spine. Who was this new player in this deadly game? Who or what is that? Jake whispered, eyes widening in fear. Would they find the strength to face yet another threat, or was this the end of everything they fought for? Jake felt his heart race, a mix of fear and curiosity drumming in his chest. The looming figure from the shadows was daunting, with a massive frame that seemed to intentionally block out the light. It took only a moment for his eyes to adjust, and in the dim light of the forest, he could see the striking lines of a creature he had never expected to encounter here, a hulking bear, dark and intimidating, but there was something in its eyes that felt different. "Jake." Tommy pulled his attention. "What do we do?" The bear stood there, seemingly uninterested in the chaos unfolding before it. Instead, it focused on the wild dogs, its massive body tensed, ready to fight if necessary. Jake's mind raced through the possibilities. Could this creature be an ally? Or just another angle of the desperate confrontation? Hold on, Tommy. Let us see how this unfolds, Jake said, his voice steadier than he felt. Leo growled, sensing the new entrant in the fray. He seemed to draw strength from the bear's presence, his mane ruffling like a banner of defiance. The pack's snarls grew deeper, wary but unsure of how to behave. Jake felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this bear wasn't here to fight but to help. Suddenly, the tension snapped like a taut wire. The wild dog pack, sensing vulnerability, lunged forward in a chaotic rush, all teeth and fury. Leo reacted instinctively, springing forward amidst a blur of fur and fangs. The bear roared, a primal sound that echoed through the trees, shaking loose leaves and rattling the foundation of fear that gripped the group. Leo! Watch out! Jake shouted, his voice cracking as he watched the lion clash with the pack. The chaos erupted around them as the bear charged in, slamming against a lone dog attempting to flank Leo. The impact was thunderous, the dog yelped, stumbling backward, momentarily stunned. Jake's heart leaped as desperation turned into determination. We can do this! He shouted, rallying Tommy and the crowd. Follow the bear! We need to help Leo! With new resolve, Jake and Tommy grabbed more sticks and rocks as the crowd hesitated then surged forward. The bear defended its territory fiercely, swatting at the jaws of the snarling pack while Leo took to the offensive, using his speed and cunning to strike. As they hurled their makeshift weapons, a deep roar erupted again from the bear. Stay back! It seemed to communicate, eyes flashing with an intensity that left no room for doubt. Straddled between the fight and flight, Jake felt a surge of courage as he admired the fierce determination of this unexpected ally. The wild dogs began to scatter, the overwhelming presence of the bear and Leo working in unison. Victory seemed within reach, but Jake knew that they couldn't afford to falter now. Not with peril so close at hand. Suddenly, the bear turned, glancing back at Jake with an intensity that demanded respect. For a fleeting moment, Jake felt an unspoken bond form between them. This creature understood the weight of their fight. It wasn't just for survival anymore, it was about unity. Their attention returned to the task at hand, but the wild dogs weren't entirely finished. The larger one from before charged once more, combining its strength with others as they rallied to defend their territory. Hold the line! Jake yelled, locking eyes with Tommy, their bond cemented by urgency. Together, they moved, following the rhythm of the growls and roars, adding their fervor into the fray. Just then, through the chaos, Jake caught a glimpse of movement in the trees. Another figure was advancing. Was this friend or foe? Who else might join this dance of survival? Tommy, look! Jake shouted, a mix of dread and curiosity stirring within him. As the shadows shifted, the tension thickened. What other surprises lay hidden within this forest of fury? Jake squinted, heart pounding as he watched the new figure break through the underbrush. Fear gripped his throat as he imagined the worst, more wild dogs, hungry for chaos. The shadows parted, revealing a small but fierce animal. A fox. Its coat shimmered in the dim forest light, a bright counterpoint to the dark, brewing storm around them. Stay sharp! Tommy whispered, his eyes darting between the bear and the approaching fox. The fox paused, taking in the scene. For a moment, Jake felt a flicker of doubt. What could a fox do against a pack of wild dogs? But then, with surprising agility, the fox darted forward, weaving between the trees, each calculated stride bringing it closer to the chaos. Suddenly, its eyes locked onto the wild dog pack. Jake's breath caught. The fox didn't hesitate or falter, and with a quick, high-pitched yip, it bounded into action. This was no ordinary creature, it was a fireball of energy and sharp instincts, a distraction. Look! Jake exclaimed, watching as the wild dogs, caught off guard, started shifting their focus. They snarled and snapped, some breaking ranks to chase after the fox. It dashed in a wide circle, leading the dogs far away from Leo and the bear. Let us make our move, Tommy urged, adrenaline surging through him as he threw a rock at the nearest dog. The stone whizzed past, just missing its target, but it was enough to distract the pack momentarily. Jake joined in, launching anything he could find toward the wild dogs. Little by little, the tide turned. The pack, divided between chasing the clever fox and defending against the bear and Leo, began to falter. "Keep pushing," Jake shouted. "We're almost there." Leo took the lead, followed closely by the bear. Their combined roars and growls filled the clearing, a battle cry that drowned out the frantic yips and barks. As the last of the wild dogs retreated deeper into the shadows, a collective sigh of relief spread through the crowd behind Jake. But the moment was bittersweet. Jake could feel the weight of the fight lingering like a dark cloud over their small victory. The fox, having drawn off the majority of the wild dogs, leaped nimbly back, joining them. It shook its fur, sending leaves flying. "Good job," Tommy exclaimed, a grin spreading across his face. "You really showed them." Jake turned his attention to the bear, who was still standing defiantly, chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. The intensity in its eyes had softened, and Jake felt a profound sense of respect for this majestic creature. "Thank you," Jake whispered, not sure if the bear could understand but hopeful nonetheless. The bear dipped its massive head, acknowledging the gesture. Then, unexpectedly, something caught Jake's eye again: movement in the nearby bushes. It took a moment to discern, but as another figure stepped into the light, Jake's heart sank. A larger wild dog, limping but determined, emerged from the foliage. Its eyes glinted with hatred and vengeance, and a low growl rumbled from its chest. "Get ready," Tommy warned, eyes wide. The bear and Leo shifted position, ready for whatever might come. Jake felt the electric tension zip through the air again. Could the fight start anew? Or could they somehow change the tide of this encounter too? As the wild dog advanced, the stakes rose once more. The resolve in Jake's heart burned brighter, but with fear creeping in, he knew they needed a plan. What could they do next to ensure they wouldn't lose their hard-won ground? Jake stood frozen, heart racing at the sight of the limping wild dog emerging from the bushes. It wasn't just a mere dog, it was a warrior, a fierce protector of its pack. In its eyes was a determination that sparked a potent mix of fear and courage inside him. "Tommy, stay back," Jake shouted, instinct taking over. He felt the familiar pull of responsibility, to shield the boy from danger. The bear had already shifted its weight, preparing for another clash, while Leo stood firm, muscles coiled and ready. The air was thick with anticipation. "Jake, what do we do?" Tommy's voice trembled, anxiety flooding his words. "Distract it. If we can separate it from the pack, maybe Leo and the bear can handle it," Jake urged, his mind racing to formulate a plan. "Let us draw it away." With a nod, Tommy gathered more rocks while Jake picked up a large stick, adrenaline propelling his movements. They flung their makeshift weapons towards the advancing dog, sending it into a momentary pause. The wild dog froze, snarling both at them and at Leo, who stood defiantly before it. In that brief stillness, clarity washed over Jake. "Leo," he whispered, catching the lion's gaze. "We trust you. Protect us." As if reading his thoughts, Leo let out a powerful roar, an explosion of strength and courage that resonated through the trees. The wild dog hesitated, a flicker of doubt flashing across its fierce eyes. Jake felt the collective heartbeat of the crowd behind him. They were with him, sharing the weight of this moment, each person silently willing Leo to succeed. In that togetherness lay hope. "Here!" Jake yelled, drawing the wild dog's attention again. He threw another rock, more aggressively this time. The dog growled in response and snapped, but Jake stood firm, ready to protect Tommy and the townsfolk. Then the bear shifted too, its massive body a constant reminder of their unexpected but powerful ally. "Keep steady," Jake called, and he felt the energy of defiance building in the crowd. They weren't just watching, they were part of this fight too. Suddenly, with one swift motion, the wild dog lunged forward. Jake's stomach dropped as time slowed. "Not today," he cried out, and just as the dog lunged, Leo launched himself as well. Their movements collided in a blur of fur and sharp teeth. Panic surged through the air, but Jake's pulse quickened not with fear, but exhilaration. The lion connected with the wild dog, powerful and fierce. They tumbled into a battle, snapping and clawing, both forces rolling across the ground. "Come on, Leo!" Jake shouted, echoing determination back to his lion in the midst of the chaos. Then it happened. Leo found his stride, leveraging his strength against the wild dog. Jake felt hope blossom within him, like the first rays of dawn breaking through night. He was reminded that every moment of empathy, bravery, and unity had built a foundation of trust between him, his friends, and Leo. Together, they had faced every challenge, and now they stood together, encircled by the growing courage of their small community. The wild dog, overwhelmed by the united front of Leo and the bear, began retreating reluctantly. With each step it took, it shrank further and further away. The roaring consensus of the townsfolk urged Leo on, every heartbeat echoing a fierce unity. And just like that, the wild dog turned and fled into the depths of the forest, tail tucked between its legs. Jake felt an overwhelming surge of relief wash over him. He turned, eyes sparkling with triumphant tears. "We did it, Leo!" he shouted, voice breaking with emotion. The bear, standing tall beside the lion, looked at Jake with a knowing gaze, an understanding of their collective fight. The crowd erupted into relieved cheers, their voices ringing out under the twilight sky. Every face radiated a sense of victory. Courage had triumphed over fear, they had faced darkness together and emerged stronger. Jake felt a warm rush as Sarah, his best friend, appeared by his side, tears glistening in her eyes. "You were incredible!" she exclaimed, her voice filled with awe. "It was all of us," he replied, glancing around at their community, his family of friends, neighbors, and now allies. They had banded together in this struggle, overcoming doubts and fears, and it had brought them closer. The last light of day faded, and in that twilight glow, Leo turned towards Jake, his golden eyes softening. It was as if he understood the bond they had forged, a silent promise to protect each other. "Thank you, Leo," Jake whispered, feeling gratefulness fill his heart. The lion stepped closer, snuggling against Jake, a gesture of trust and connection. Suddenly, the fox joined them, bounding back with a playful spirit, igniting laughter in the crowd. "Looks like we've got a new friend," Tommy cheered, pointing excitedly at the creature. As laughter spread through the town, Jake looked out at the faces surrounding him, the kids, the parents, the weary farmers, everyone united by a single moment of courage. It reminded him that in their hearts lay strength beyond what any wildness could contest. He smiled wide, knowing there would be more challenges ahead, but right now, they had won not just a fight but a new understanding of unity, trust, and the beauty of embracing the wild together. "Let us go home," Jake said, his voice filled with warmth. They had a story to tell, a journey to share. And in that small town, nestled between fields and woods, new legends of courage would take root, one born from the heart of a boy and the spirit of a lion. As they turned away, a new chapter unfolded behind them, full of promise and connection. They had faced the wild together, thriving, not just surviving. And that bond? It was indelible. It would light the way for a new tomorrow. Now, it's your turn to continue this wonderful journey of stories. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive tales that will inspire and captivate. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure these incredible stories continue to reach your screens. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters to us. And finally, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share the gift of connection and courage. True fans stand together.